Welcome back to Namaste Front-End System Design, and this video is all about introduction to testing. And when I talk about testing, I am talking about the testing of front-end application. You know what? If you are a front-end engineer and you have ever written a test case in your life, that means kudos to you. And because you are among the very small percentage of front-end developers who actually even know what is meant to be testing a front-end application. A lot of developers, especially the front-end developers, they think that there is nothing such as testing of a front-end application, right? When I say testing, I'm not talking about manual testing, I'm talking about the code, right? The test cases that we write. Very few percentage of front-end developers only know how to write test cases, and a lot of them know how to write test cases, but they don't get an opportunity to write test cases. But let me tell you, it is a very important skill for a developer, whether it is a front-end or a back-end. Why I am focusing upon front-end a lot? Because see, front-end is the face of your application, and there are a lot of chances that you can mess up over there. So that is why testing that whole front-end application is really very important, because it's the face of your product. A lot of front-end developers think that testing is the job of tester or a testing team or QA engineers. But let me tell you, my dear friend, that it is a very crucial part of a developer's journey as well. Okay, and let me tell you one important fact also. In big companies, right, like Microsoft, Uber, and a lot of big FAANG companies that you admire, right? Some of the teams over there don't even have a tester. When I used to work in Uber, our team did not have a testing team. We as developers used to be responsible for ensuring that the application is running smooth. We personally used to write test cases. And you know what? We had such strict rules that if you do not have your test cases written, if the test coverage is low, then I can't even push that code to GitHub. I think I have already stressed a lot about why testing is very important. Now let us just move on to see what are the various type of testing that you can do for a front-end application. And in the upcoming videos, I will also dive deep into few of these testing techniques, which are very important as a front-end developer. So now let us just move to the first type of testing, which is the unit testing. So first of all, let me tell you that a whole big front-end large-scale application is built using small components, small units inside the whole web application. Now, if you test a particular unit, right, a single small component or a unit, then that is known as unit testing. Let me take an example. Suppose if we go on to Amazon.com, right? This is the Amazon.com. Now, if we take that, okay, we have a very small unit of code or a very small unit, okay, let us take a small unit as maybe this card, right? So where is a card? Suppose this card. So if you want to test this card, whether this card has been rendered on the page or not, whether you pass in the props inside the card and the card is loading properly or not. So that is known as unit testing. Testing a small unit of the whole application. Okay. So over here, this is a very big application, but this card, right? This card is one portion or a one unit of this application. And if you test only this unit, this is known as unit testing. So testing a small unit is known as unit testing. Understood? Let us move on to the other technique. The second one is integration testing. Now let us talk about integration testing. So when we talk about integration testing, as I told you that we have a large application, it is built by small components. Now these small components work together, and when you are testing the whole feature where these components are working together and you test that flow, that is known as integration testing. Basically, you test the integration of multiple components. Okay, that is known as integration testing. If I have to take an example from the same e-commerce website, we can see this, right? So let me take an example. So these cards are small units, right? Small units. So if you test that card, that is unit testing. But now if you talk about this whole component, right, this whole big component which is known as today's deal, right, this whole component, so now it is built by multiple components which are integrated together, right? And suppose if I click on this left arrow, right, it takes me to left, and if I click on this right arrow, it just scrolls to right. So if you test this feature, this is known as integration testing. Now, if you suppose if you write a test case, when you click on this left arrow button, it should slide and move ahead. Okay, a next set of cards should show up. So this is integration test case and a integration testing. When you test the integration of multiple different units together, that is known as integration testing. This is one such example here, right? Now let us just move to the next portion of testing. So the third type of testing can be functional testing. Now when I talk about functional testing, think about from the end user's perspective, what is the feature of your application. Okay, let me take an example. So think from the end user point of view, whether you are the user of this website. So one such test case could be to add item to a cart, right? Suppose you want to test a functionality or a feature in the website. Got it? Functionality or the feature of this website. Suppose if I go onto any product and if I click on add to cart, now this item should go inside this cart. Okay, so if I click on add to cart, it go inside the cart and the cart number over there updates to 1. Okay, so this feature, right, this one functionality is known as functional testing. If you test, if I click on that button and the item goes to the cart and the cart number is updated, if you test this functionality, if you test this feature, this is known as functionality testing, and it is mostly related from the end user's point of view. Suppose I am the end user, I am the users of the website. So if I click on that button, that item should go inside the cart. This is the one function, this is the one functionality of a website. So this is known as functional testing. Now let us just move to the another part of testing, which is the next testing is end-to-end testing, which is also known as E2E testing. Now, when I talk about end-to-end testing, that means now we are talking about testing the whole flow of the application. The whole flow of the application. Now, let me again take an example from the e-commerce website. So, think about again from the user's point of view. Suppose a user landed onto Amazon.com. So, what flow or what features can the user go through his entire journey? Important word over here is throughout his entire journey. Okay, so suppose a user landed onto Amazon.com or Amazon.in, and then he goes and just clicks on a product. Now he goes to the product page. Now he is just seeing all these things, and now he clicks on the add to cart, and then he proceeds to buy, and then he is asked to log in. After login, he is taken to the payment page, and then he does the payment. He goes to order summary. So basically, it is like end to end. The user landed onto the website till he navigates out of the website. All the thing that you test, the whole application flow, the whole user journey is being tested. This is known as end-to-end testing, which is known as E2E testing. This is also, let me also talk from a developer and a tester point of view. A lot of time, developers are responsible for writing unit test cases, integration test cases, and sometimes end-to-end test cases. But if you have a testing team, probably the testing team would be writing end-to-end test cases for you. Okay, so end-to-end test cases means you are testing the whole user journey throughout the application. This is very important. Okay, and there are certain tools that you can use to write test cases, something like Selenium, Cypress, Playwright. Okay, so these are the tools. I have personally used Selenium, but I have not used Cypress. But Cypress is something which is getting very popular these days. Okay, and Selenium is something which I have seen. I have used it personally when I used to work in a startup which was known as Lending Cart. In that Lending Cart, our testing team job was to use Selenium to write automation test cases. Okay, so there is when Selenium tool was used, and Cypress is another important tool if you are thinking about writing end-to-end test cases for your front-end application. As a senior engineer, you should definitely know what kind of tools you can use for testing these type of testing, and you should also be able to tell what are different types of testing that you can do for a front-end application. This can be asked a lot of time in interviews also. And let me cover all these testing techniques first, then I will talk from an interviewer standpoint also, that how testing can help you in your interviews as well. Now let me move to the another part of the testing, which is regression testing. Now when I say regression testing, that means, see, whenever you build an application, you don't build the whole application in one day, right? Suppose if you are building Amazon.com, if you are building Amazon.in, you have Amazon is not built in just one day, or it is not the final version that you see right now. Every day, some other new features are being added onto the website, isn't it? Every day, say you launched the first version of your product, then you will add more features to it, then you will add more features to your website, then you will add some more features to your website, right? Isn't it? That's how the application is built. So how do you make sure that if you are adding the code for a new feature to your website, it does not break the existing features? How do you make sure, let me repeat it once again, how do you make sure that if you are adding a new feature to your website, now the existing website does not break? How do you make sure? Okay, so this is known as regression testing, where we write test cases which ensures that if you are adding a new feature to our website, then it does not break the existing features, right? So this is known as regression testing. Let's move to another part of testing. Another type of testing is performance testing. So as the name suggests, performance testing, it means now we are going to test about the performance of your web application. When I talk about performance of a front-end application, what comes to your mind? Obviously, page load speed, isn't it? The major important thing is the page load speed. Now, what else? How heavy your page is. How heavy your page is, right? Page load speed, and then how much MB of data are you transferring to it, right? And it kind of directly depends on that. Then it also comes about the whole performance of your web application, right? So everything which is related to performance is being tested. That testing is known as performance testing. Basically, the latency of loading the resources from the server, right? Loading the web page, how much time your web page takes to become interactive, right? So a lot of things come inside performance testing, right? And that is very crucial for our front-end application. Why? Because let me tell you, if your website is slow, then the search engines won't rank it. Let me tell you once again, if the website is slow, then you will not be ranked up on Google. Then somebody is searching for something, some keywords, the Google will de-rank, right? Will show a lower rank of website which are not fast enough. So always try to make your website fast and performant. Now, the tools by which you can do performance testing is Lighthouse, Google PageSpeed. Okay, and in the upcoming videos, I will make another separate videos where I will dive deep into this performance testing. It is very, very, very important when it comes to front end. And you know what? If you go and right click and inspect element, now here, how many of you have seen over here, there is something known as performance here, right? If you go, there is a tab performance. We will talk about this performance tab in one such video, and you will be amazed to learn about the performance. How do you test the performance of your web application? Right? How fast is your application? Is your application good? How much time it takes to render JavaScript, CSS? Okay, and then is a script blocking the rendering of the application or not? Everything we will cover. We will dive deep into performance in a performance testing video. Okay, so let us move to another part of testing for now. That is known as accessibility testing. Now, as the name suggests, accessibility testing ensures that your application is usable by people with disabilities. Lots of engineers miss this. And a lot of us think that accessibility is not a problem. Majority of our users do not need such features, so we will not build it. But as a senior front-end engineer, if you are building an application which is going to millions of people, which is a large scale application which is going to masses, then you cannot avoid accessibility testing. Your website should be accessible for everyone, with the people who have disabilities or the people who are don't have disabilities. Your website should work properly, and that is why accessibility testing plays a very important role. And if you talk about companies like Microsoft, it's a must have thing to know, and you can impress your interviewers. So see, I'll tell you, suppose if you're going to a Microsoft interview, in your front end interview round, you talk about accessibility testing, you are selected in the interview, right? It will impress the interviewer a lot. So accessibility testing, even talking about accessibility testing is a big thing. Talking about accessibility is a very important thing, right? We have a separate module where we will cover about accessibility. So go check that module out, and there we will talk about accessibility even in much more detail. Chirag will be taking that session, and hope you will enjoy it. Now let us move to the another testing method, which is known as cross-browser testing. Oh my god, a lot of developers, front-end developers, pull their hairs when they think about cross-browser compatibility. I'll tell an example with my experience. I was in Paytm, right? And Paytm, for people who don't know what Paytm is, it is a financial fintech application in India, right? It's basically Indian finance application, right, where you can do a lot of things, right? It's like Alibaba of India, right? Kind of. I'm just giving you a small comparison there. But let me tell you that Paytm has a lot of features that it offers, and Paytm has huge, large audience base. I remember I was working on a feature, right? Not a feature, I was working on an application over there. And the day we released the application, everything broke. Everything broke. Why? Because we did not do cross browser testing. Because we did not do cross browser testing, a lot of features were working on my laptop in Chrome and Firefox. But when you go to mass audience, right, then people are using some older versions of browser. They have not updated their browser since a long time. Some people are still using Internet Explorer, and then they are using random website on random operating systems on random devices. So many issues with cross browser testing. So cross browser testing is a must, is a very very must when it comes to front end application, and if you are going to go to masses. This can be a very important interview question when you are going for an interview of a application, right, of a company where the user base is huge. Let me give you an example. Suppose if you go and give the interview of LinkedIn. I was giving an interview of a front end role at LinkedIn, and that guy asked me, how do you make sure that your application works on all the different browsers? Right? So that is when cross browser testing comes into play. Your application, as a senior engineer, you should know, how can I do cross browser testing? Okay, and if it can be asked in interviews, at least you should know about it. A lot of developers, when I take interviews, they don't even know about cross browser testing. Okay, so cross browser testing is an important thing. Keep it in your arsenal and know about it. There are different type of application, there are different type of tools which you can use to do cross browser testing. You can check out on the internet. Let us move to the next type of testing. The next type of testing is usability testing. Okay, so now usability testing is basically how your users or the end users interact with your application, how they navigate through the application, right? So this is basically a fancy term, usability testing, for manual testing. Okay, so usability testing means that, is your application usable to the real users? So this is not basically a job of developer, to be very honest. It is like manually testing the application, right? Not a job of developers. See, developers already do usability testing. So suppose if you are coding something, now you go to the website and check whether that feature is working properly. That is known as usability testing. So it is not a hardcore job of a developer. Mostly testing team checks all the features manually. That is kind of testing the usability of that whole feature, of that whole application. That is known as usability testing. Okay, so this is what is usability testing. Let's move on to the next testing, which is very, very, very important. Again, it is security testing. Okay, security testing. Now, security is a very crucial part of any application. There are so many, we have a different module on security. Go check that module out. You will see that there are so many security threats that your application can have. We have covered those threats in detail. Now, when I talk about testing, there are different tools by using which you can simulate a DDoS attack. You can simulate whether how your application will work if you will do a if you will run a loop and try to pollute the database of an application, or try to run some scripts on the browser. So basically, security testing means that your application cannot be misused, is not vulnerable. Finding vulnerability is a very important thing when it comes to security testing. Now, when I talk about from a developer's point of view, security testing is definitely not a very hardcore job of a developer. But as a developer, you should definitely know about the threats that your front-end application has, right? Testing using, see, there are different tools that you can use to do security testing, such as OWASP Zap and Burp Suite. I have used Burp Suite. I have not used this tool, right? But I have used Burp Suite a lot. Burp Suite is a very good tool, right? You can do a lot of things using this tool. So now, see, let me tell you honestly that when you are working in a company, you are not exactly asked to do this security testing. But if you are trying to, if you are curious about security testing, then you can try your hands out. But let me tell you that some companies have a different security team where there are people who basically keep testing your application for any vulnerabilities. Okay, so that is security testing. I just wanted to highlight this point because as a senior engineer, you should know that your application needs a security testing also if that application is very critical. Suppose if it is a financial application, you should definitely be doing security testing. There should be a person who is responsible for security testing of your application as well. Now let us just move on to another part of testing, which is localization and internationalization testing. Now, this testing basically means that does your application work in different languages all across the world? Let me tell you that there are very less people in the world who speak English. Let me repeat that repeat that sentence again. There are very less people in the world who understand or who reads in English. What about others? Is your website ready for people all across the world? If your website is accessible from all across the world, then you should definitely ensure that you have the correct localization. It works on different regions, if it works on different languages. That testing, whether ensuring that your website is working all across the world in different multiple languages, and it totally depends upon your application. Some application might not need to work on every country in every different language. That's okay. But you should definitely do that internationalization testing as well. And not just whether it is working or there or not. Sometimes it is also like we don't want our application to work in certain countries. Right? Let me repeat it once again. We don't want our application to run in certain countries. We want to restrict that. So that is also a part of testing. Enabling it for the whole world, or maybe not enabling it for certain part of the world can be a part of it. And everything that has to do with cross borders, different languages, different regions, it comes into localization and internationalization testing. If your application has such use case, then you should definitely do this kind of testing as well. Now, these were the techniques of front-end application testing. Now, let me tell you about one important and a very, very interesting type of testing, which is known as A/B testing. I have personally used this a lot, and it is very helpful when you are building, when you want to, when you are not sure about the decision that you take from the product standpoint. Okay, so now in A/B testing, this A/B testing is also known as split testing. Okay, this A/B testing is also known as split testing. Now I will tell you one example what is known as A/B testing. Okay, let's go back to our example of Amazon.com. Suppose you want to test whether what kind of offers will work, right? Suppose if you want to check that which kind of offers work well on the home page. Okay, which kind of offers work well on the home page. Okay, let me take an example. So there can be offer of a percentage, there can be offer of starting from 139 rupees, there can be this offer also. Now suppose if you are a product manager and you want to take a decision which of these cards, right, this up to 60%, up to 55% should be the first card, which card should be the second card, which card should be the third card over here, how will you decide? Now you might say it depends on intuition, whatever the product manager feels he can do that. No, can you back this up with data? Can you back this up with data? Let me repeat this A/B testing once again. Suppose if this is one card which says up to 60% off, this is one card starting 139 rupees, this is one card up to 55% off, which of these cards, how should you put the layout of these, right? Should I put this card first, this card second, this card third? How should I arrange these cards? How, right? Generally you would say that okay, that we take these decisions by our gut feeling. I don't know how Amazon.in is doing it, but let me tell you an interesting thing. There is something known as A/B testing. Whenever you are confused whether which type of feature will work on for your users, then you can back that up with data. How you will do that? Basically, suppose if there are two versions of the website, right? We will make one version of the website where we will lay these cards in this same order, right? And then we will make another. So what we will do is basically we will route 50% of the people to 50, we will show the same layout to 50% of the people, and we will show a different kind of layout for these different arrangement of these cards to another set of people. And then we will see how many more people clicked on some item, or maybe how many people are engaging through these products more in which version. Okay, I think you might be confused what am I talking about, but let me tell you that think from that point of view. Suppose if you want to test whether what layout works well, right? So for half of the people you will show a different type of layout, for half of the people you will show a different type of layout, and then you will check how much time each of these set of users are spending on the website, which of the group, right? Suppose this is one group of people, this is one group of people, which group of people have bought more products, which group of people have interacted more with your websites. So according to these metrics, you can decide whether which arrangement of these cards work well. Okay, this is known as A/B testing, where we are routing 50% to one version, 50% to another version. Similarly, you can do it for ABC testing also, where you can write 33% to one part of the one type of the feature, the second group, right, 33% to other version of your product, and then the third to the last version of the product. So that is also known as A/B testing, split testing, that you can split your whole audience base into multiple types of people, right? And let me tell you that in bigger companies, A/B testing plays a very crucial role. That is why I am stressing too much into it. You as a developer should definitely know what is A/B testing. though it is a call of product manager in the company to tell you when to run these A/B testing campaigns and what features to test. It is a product call, not a developer's call. But as a developer, you should at least know how to implement it and what exactly A/B testing actually means. Got it? So personally, in my experience, I have used A/B testing a lot in lending cart, and it helped us take major critical business decisions. Okay, so that is what I want to say. Now let's move to another part of testing, which is not a testing type, but a technique which is used for developers, right? This is for developers, which is known as TDD. It stands for test driven development. What do you mean by test driven development? What do you mean by test driven development? Test driven development means that it is a technique where we write test cases before we write code. Now, let me tell you, there are very small portion of people who actually write test case, right? Very, and now out of these small people, there are very, very, very tiny, minuscule, very less, right? People or the developers are the ones who actually know what test driven development is, and it is rarely used in the industry, right? I have never used test driven development in my life, but this is a very good approach, right? You should know about it as a developer, right? Whether you should do test driven development or not, that is a separate call, right? We will discuss about pros and cons of test driven development also. But let me tell you, as a developer, test driven development, you should know about the technique, right? It can be asked in your interviews, or maybe you should just know about it, right? Because that is cool. So what happens in test driven development is, uh, I don't want to dive deep into it in this video, but let me tell you a little bit gist of about test driven development. It means that first of all, you write test cases, then you write code for it. Okay, first you write test cases about the feature, then you write code for it. Okay, suppose if I am building a random feature, then okay, so let's take an example from e-commerce website only. Suppose, what kind of feature can we build? Suppose we are building a feature, maybe I don't know what feature example can. Okay, so suppose we are building this feature, English, changing the language of the website. Okay, changing the language of the website is a feature, right? Now I want to do test driven development of it. So first of all, I will write test cases for this. How I will write test cases? First of all, I will write test case that whether when I change this language to Hindi, the title or the title of my logo, okay, let me change Hindi. Okay, let me change to Hindi. Then I will write that the title of this page will change to Bhasha setting, right? This is Hindi, right? So basically, before I implement the code, I will first of all write the test cases. Now the test cases will fail, and then now with code I will try to pass those test cases. Okay, so basically it is a very lengthy concept to explain in a very short video like this, but I am just telling you the gist, that you write test cases before you write the code, and then you refactor your code to make things work, right? It is a very good technique, right? And it can be very helpful for your product. And let me tell you, if you build your product using test driven development, it is the safest option. But a lot of companies don't follow it. The reason is that it is very tedious. A lot of developers don't even know how to do test driven development. The second problem is that it takes a lot of time. The development time increases to more than 2x. But let me tell you, it is just the initial time which it takes to which will take a lot of time. But as you continue to keep doing test driven development, slowly your efficiency will increase and the time taken will be less, but still it will be more than how we develop naturally, right? Generally, how we develop, we just start writing code. As soon as we get the feature, we just start coding it right away. But in test driven development, you might have to write the test cases first, then do development. What we do right now is we write the code, Now, if we feel like, then we write test cases, or sometimes, most of the times, we don't even write test cases for our code, right? So that is a different altogether approach. This is a very different altogether approach. So these were the type of testing which I wanted to tell you and are very crucial for front-end applications, right? Apart from these testing, and let me tell you, these are not the type of all the type of testing. There are so many more type of testing which are very relevant when it comes to QA engineers, right? Different type of automation testing and whatnot are there, right? But for as a developer, you should know what these types of testing are, because it is very important to at least know about them. And you should actually, as a developer, focus upon writing unit test cases, integration test cases very well. And you can also take a jab and try to write your end-to-end test cases also. These are very important things that you can do, that you should do basically as a developer. You should definitely know them in depth. Okay. And apart from all the other testing, it is okay to not know much about it, but at least you should know what are these terms, right? At least you should know what do you mean by regression testing, whether even you are not doing it, but then you should at least know what is regression testing, isn't it? You should know these keywords. Very, very important when it comes to interviews. Okay. And yes, performance testing, definitely, if you are a developer, this is your job to be very good at performance testing. When you are making a large scale application, performance testing plays a very, very, very important role, my dear friends. Okay, so these were the types of testing which I wanted to cover in this module. One last thing which I want to tell before I end this video is, a lot of people just ignore testing. They feel that it is not asked in interviews, it is not important, and a lot of companies don't even ask you to write test cases, so they just skip testing, right? But let me tell you, if you are a developer and you have this testing skill with you, it can be a very big bonus for you. Very, very, very big bonus for you. How? Just go in an interview, wherever you are giving an interview, just mention the word testing, any of these testing. Just mention the word testing in front of your interviewer. If you are a senior engineer, you are going a system design, right? Take 5-10 minutes to talk about testing. If you are giving a manager round, right? There is a manager round, right? Where the hiring manager takes your round. In that hiring manager round, just mention a little bit about testing. That obviously a hiring manager will definitely ask you about your past projects or the project that you build. Just focus a little bit about on testing. It will just impress the interviewers. Talk about these terms, that we can do performance testing. We can do unit testing, integration testing, test-driven development. When you talk about these things, A/B testing and all these things, when you talk about these things, it will impress your interviewer. Okay, so that is a great hack for interviews, but then just don't talk about it. You should also know about it in detail, right? The interviewer can cross-question you a lot. So know about it, know about the tools that are used, even though you might not know how to write code for it exactly, but if you already know a little bit about these testings and some tools which are being used to do these type of testing, that is good enough as a senior front-end engineer. And you should at least know these types of testing exist, right? I have seen a lot of developers, you go and ask them what are the different type of testing you can do for a front-end application. They don't know anything. Literally, they can't even tell me 3 types of testing that they can do. So you don't be one of them, and try to focus on testing and try to be a good engineer, right? Not just a developer who develops features, a whole engineer who develops it, tests it, maintains it, and protects it, and keep building more, right? So be a good engineer. That's all in this video. Thank you so much. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.